Yeah. So you were on, and he was on Dr. Phil. I don't think that's come out yet. Were you on the panel or were you in the audience with him?
I was in the audience, and one of the Dr. Phil producers asked me if I'd answer a question regarding toxic masculinity, because they would send us emails and they asked us to respond to questions, and one of the producers said that she liked my answer. So I was like, okay, well, I didn't know it was going to be like Rollo Tomasi or like the red pill people. I didn't know it was to be any of that. And Dr. Phil had asked me a question. I go to talk to him, and Rollo Tomasi interrupted me, and we started arguing on TV. So that's what happened.
Oh, you started arguing.
It didn't come out yet. No, not yet.
No, will
You're arguing with
who?
who?
Yeah, no, it will.
With who?
Huh?
But wait, did you know Rollo?
No, I didn't. I knew of like Andrew Tate and like all that stuff, but I didn't know really who he was. And after the show was over, he introduced himself to me, and I was actually surprised he talked to me, because I thought like we just argued. But I mean, it was fine. Like we were trying to respect each other's, like, I guess like in a businessy way, but like it's also hard.
But you guys disagreed.
We disagree.
Okay, what did you guys argue about?
We argued about toxic masculinity because he wanted to argue with me and say one of my points. We got kind of off topic, but one of my points, I had said that women don't get paid as much as men, and that we don't. Obviously, that's not in like every.
Yeah, that's been debunked.
Yeah, and then there was the reproductive right thing. He wanted to argue with me about that, but like, he's like, men have more reproductive rights than women, and I was like, well.
He said that?
Yes.
No, he must have said that men have no reproductive rights.
No, he had made a podcast and he referenced me in it after the show.
Yeah.
And he said men actually have more reproductive rights. And I was like, you don't have the kids. What are you talking about? But my point on TV was that even in all states, like they started like banning abortions and stuff like that. And like whether you're for it or not, like you can't tell people what to do with their bodies. And like that's been like happening. And he just said, no, it's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But then he didn't want to get into like Roe versus Wade and all that stuff, of course, because, you know, yeah.
He said that.
He said that on his podcast. He made an emergency. He called it Dr. Phil podcast. He said something. It was like an emergency podcast, and I saw it, and it was like right after the show.
I was actually in touch with one of the producers from Dr. Phil. I don't know if it would have been the same panel, but I didn't have time to go and do it, but I was in touch with one of the producers, and but okay, so we don't have to get into the whole reproductive rights thing, but I'm surprised that that's his take, because a lot of people that are in the red pill space, I mean, one of the common arguments you hear is men have no reproductive rights. So I don't know if you're misquoting him, or maybe he just has a different.
On the Dr. Phil show, he didn't say it on the Dr. Phil show. On the Dr. Phil show,
Just
he started arguing about it on the Dr. Phil show. On his podcast after the Dr. Phil show, he said men actually have more reproductive rights than women.
Really? Are you sure you're not misquoting him? Because I can't. That just doesn't. I could be wrong. He might have a different take.
Whatever he said. His point was that everything's okay with us and it's not happening. Like basically that we have all the rights that we want, and that's just not true.
So he must be arguing that men have no reproductive rights.
Whatever he's arguing, and he's saying that Roe versus Wade isn't a thing.
That sounds lost. But why would men have reproductive rights? They're not. All their
Equality.
sponsorship is just donating sperm. But I can just go to what?
Okay, finish your thought.
I'm saying reproductive rights. What are y'all talking about in terms of like? They're not growing a baby inside of them.
Exactly. So like, why don't you get to talk about it?
And so you don't have a say whether or not I'm having a baby. That's what I'm saying. You're just a sperm donor, whether or not I choose to.
Even your future. Do you want to be married?
Yeah.
You'd consider your future father of your children and your husband just a sperm donor?
So if I decide to have children, yes, because
that's.
No, because they're taking care of the kid.
I would, if I was your husband, I'd feel pretty awful to be referred to as a sperm donor. Just saying.
When there's emotions and feelings involved, that's different.
Okay.
But you still say you and I are married, and I get pregnant.
Sure.
It's still my choice. Like, do I want to have our child or not? So that's what I'm saying. Like,
well,
I wed the sperm donor.
Here's a question, right? Here's a question. Like, let's say a guy has sex with a woman, gets her pregnant. She wants to keep the kid, right? What do you say to him if he says, hey, listen, I don't want to be financially responsible. I don't want to be involved. What do you say to him?
Then that's, she chose to have the baby, then that's fine.
Because it proves the fact he is just a sperm donor.
Yeah, he is just a sperm donor. She just decided that she just, at the end of the day, she wanted to be a mom or whatever the case may be. Why we don't know her reason why she chose to keep the baby. But yeah, he's just a sperm donor, made her a mom, and toodaloos, good day, sir.
Well, he's not a sperm donor, he's the father. But perhaps this might just be semantics. But the point is that so men, we don't have any reproductive rights because in the event that he wants to have the kid and you don't, he doesn't have a say. In the event that he doesn't want the kid and you do, he doesn't have a say there. In the event that you keep the kid, and even when you go through the pregnancy, you can always give it up for adoption if you were so inclined. Men don't really have a say under those circumstances. But the big one is if he doesn't want the kid, you do, that's fine. But if you have the kid, he's now forced to pay child support for 18 years.
But he is forced and he's not forced in terms of like, if I just like got pregnant off the streets, I'm not going to go to him and be like, hey, you got to pay me the child support.
But if you really don't want a kid, then have a vasectomy. You can get it reversed. Then
vasectomies are not.
I feel like if men
vasectomies
had to
are
carry
not.
children, they'd feel a lot differently about a lot of the problems. But it's easier for them to say if they do
this
or don't
wouldn't
want
even be an
something that
argument
really
if
isn't
guys
inside
get
of
pregnant.
them.
Yeah.
Look, I'll give you guys my take on abortion. So I'd consider myself pro-choice with caveats. So.
Okay.
What's your man having a choice?
Well, okay, if women are allowed to have abortions, men should be able to do a legal paternal surrender, which basically means if the woman has the child, they should have the right to opt out of financial obligation and having to.
Couldn't you just wear a condom?
Can't women just wear? I mean, you can make
tubes. Or not us.
but see, it's interesting that you make the argument that for men who don't want to financially support a children,
Wear a
tough,
condom.
wear a condom, just keep your legs closed. But if you said the same thing to women of, oh, well, if you didn't want to get pregnant, you should have just not had sex or had been on birth control. Do you see how it's a double standard there?
No.
It's 100% because
nowadays we have sex for pleasure. Like, and sex without a condom feels better than with a condom.
Sure.
And so, but there are responsibilities that come with if you're having sex without a condom. Yeah. And so therefore, if that slip happens, so you're having sex without a condom, you either like reserve to plan B or you accidentally get pregnant and you decide to keep the baby. But at the end of the day, it's still, say that happened to me. It's my choice what I decide to do, whether to keep or not. And then the discussion of like, do you want to support this or not? That's a different topic. I don't.
Yeah, I'll continue on. So basically, I would say people that are pro-life do make very compelling arguments. The argument, and keep in mind, I'm pro-choice. Not everything that is wrong should be illegal. Abortion's clearly wrong. However, it's clearly wrong.
How are they wrong?
Would you be? Abortion is clearly wrong.
How are they wrong?
Would you be okay with a woman having an abortion one day before she would otherwise give birth?
Wait, say that again.
Would you be?
If she was about to give birth, would you want her
would
to
you
kill the
otherwise
baby?
be okay with? Would you otherwise be okay with a woman having an abortion one day before she would otherwise